Good afternoon. Welcome to WILI 1400 AM, 95.3 FM for the Unfiltered with Mike Desaulniers. And today in studio guests, we have Robert Zarnetske, our town manager.
Hey, folks.
And Hailey Desaulniers. She's here today.
Hi.
Alrighty. So I'd like to start off the show. Today, is this your first time on a local show, or?
No, actually, I get to come down and talk to Wayne Norman once a month.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is kind of nice.
I mean, we don't quite rate like the Wayne Norman show, but we're close. We run a close second to him. He's got a couple shows on us.
He's done a few, yeah.
Yeah, he's done a few. We're way better than the other shows during the week. You've got one on Thursday at 4 o'clock. I mean, and the Monday 4 o'clock. We're way better than them guys. But anyway, you've been here over a year now. What are some of the things in town that you see the positives and going in a positive direction?
Yeah, so it's been 1 year, 1 week, and there's a lot of good news here in Windham and Eastern Connecticut in general. The truth is, there have always been a lot of challenges in the economy, the structural economy of Eastern Connecticut. We've come out of the manufacturing era in the 1960s and 70s and never really found the complete remake of our role here. We never really figured out what was next. But Willimantic, Windham, and Mansfield, we have the great advantage of having two great higher education institutions, actually three. We've got Quinnebog Valley Community College as well. That is a real distinguishing element. When I look around the country, and I do these sorts of things, I try to find sort of comparable communities and try to figure out what they're doing that we could replicate. And I ask the question, what is it that makes us unique? There's a lot of communities about the size of Windham with about the same sort of composition, sort of post-industrial communities, sort of on the fringe of an urban area, Hartford in our case. But none of them really have the benefit of a university. You can look at towns our size around the country, and very few have got two universities right in the vicinity.
Right.
That makes a big difference, and it impacts who lives here. We have a large number of students, graduate students, alum who decide to stay in the area. We have faculty and we have staff who work for the universities. So that, buoys the community in a lot of different ways and makes things more productive. In terms of just what I've seen in evolution over the last year, we've had some interesting successes around here. I mean, the truth is, when I came in, town government was sort of still recovering from COVID. I think that's one way to think of it. Folks went home and were working from home. We had come back into the office, and at the time, everybody was having sort of growing pains or difficulties sort of reintroducing the workforce back into the physical office space. We had that challenge, and we had to overcome that. I think we've overcome that. I mean, we're starting to see much better performance measures coming out of the various programs and the departments. I see that as a great success. The fact that we are now sort of back in the office in a meaningful, purposeful way, that we're deliberately reporting on the outcomes of the work that we're doing in the office, I feel like we're back on track.
Right. And, like you said, coming off the COVID, you had a lot of people doing a lot of work from home. You had things going on, businesses slowing down. So budgeting, of course, I've got to imagine, has changed in a way where with inflation, everything going up, and real budgets coming back, things hitting us just like last week, the snow. That had to have impacted town budget.
Yeah.
We had to have had.
Yeah, we've had some significant impacts. This has been so I guess the thing to start with here is, remember, we came in with a budget this year that actually gave some tax relief. The town council aimed for a reduced budget because 2 years ago the increase was really just way too large. We saw a significant increase in taxes 2 years ago. So last year we were going to pare it back, and we in fact came back and gave slight property tax reductions for most taxpayers last year. So we came in with a very, very tight budget. And you're right, when you see a snowstorm after a snowstorm after a snowstorm, and unfortunately all on holidays and weekends. We're not seeing any of this hit midweek during regular business hours. Right. So that means it's overtime for the folks coming in on New Year's Eve. We had a storm. That does have an impact. It's been significant. We've also had increases in our overtime for the police and the fire and the Willimantic taxing district. It's been a tough winter in terms of trying to stick to a tight budget, but we're managing it. I'm not too worried about it. We've got the reserves to take care of anything we have to take care of this year. I will say that it is a portent of things to come. We do have to watch this because you learn from your experience, and I don't expect this winter to be replicated next year. Nonetheless, we do have to pad against the future because we've used the cushion that we had this year.
Right, and we've got so many, there's a lot of irons in the fire, and I get a lot of calls on, we do have different opportunities for people to come in and do things in the town that are coming up. We just had a proposal last week or brought in front of us, the garden on the bridge. Things like that to better the community, different activities, pickleball courts, all these kind of things. Yeah. How would you say with it? But then we've got the mandates from the state coming down. We've got lack of funding because of federal cuts and things like this. The footbridge, and I noticed on the footbridge may have found a funding source.
Well, we may have. We've got a grant application that's being developed right now that might be a big chunk of the footbridge if we're successful. It's a USDOT grant that would put probably about $5 million. We anticipate the cost of this project to be between 4 and 6 or 7. We might be able to get $5 million toward that project from USDOT. Again, that's just the application. There's the reviewers, and there's all sorts of things that go into what DOT decides to do or doesn't do. But you're right. It's an exciting time around here because we're seeing development again. We've got this project down here at 804 on Main Street, 63 units of housing going on. We get another 47 units of housing going on at 650. So just on Main Street in the next year, we're going to see 100 new units of housing, which is a big deal. That's a big increase in foot traffic, which means more patrons at the shops. It means more activity. It may mean more vibrant. We're hoping it means a more vibrant downtown, which translates into more interest in being near that vibrant downtown, which increases property values throughout town. So it's an exciting time. We've got other projects. We've got an approval for a project of 290 units. Up in the North Wyndham area, behind the Walmart, and another project of 200 and some odd, 275, 280, something like that, at the Wyndham Mills. So there's a lot of projects that are in process that are moving step by step toward completion, and in the next 2 or 3 years, we could see a significant increase in the population of Wyndham, which we haven't seen in decades. If you had 100 more people downtown, and you had 300 out there, and you had another 300 down here, that's still more people than we've seen in terms of growth of the population in probably 30 years, 40 years.
Right. And it's incredible to see, the way things grow and how everything evolves. The reason I brought stuff like this up with the footbridge and everything is, let people know that your job is not just, show up in the morning and leave at night with, you're looking outside the box, funding sources for all this stuff. There's been all kind of other things that you've looked into, since you've been here. We both got here about the same time on the, as far as I went on the council.
I beat you by about a week, yeah.
No, actually.
Maybe not.
No, because
the other
I was.
way around.
Yeah, I beat you by the week. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, exactly. I was on the. Yeah. So, but we've all seen this all happen and start unfolding in front of us at about the same. And I just really applaud the way that you're looking beyond, just the day to day and what's happened in the past on that stuff.
I think that's a really important thing to spend just a little bit of time thinking about, because you're right. There's multiple layers to this stuff. You got to be thinking about what's going on outside of town and how that's going to influence us. And you do have to worry about what's going on at each desk in town hall.
Right.
So it's I had a buddy once who used to call it helicoptering. You got to be able to dive down and see things right there on the field, and then you got to be able to helicopter up and see things from a broad perspective. We've got challenges in both of those dimensions. We've got a challenge because this sort of COVID hangover stuff is real. Folks had to get back into the pace of working in an office and being accountable in that space and in that way. And we have challenges that are completely beyond our control. The national economy, the international economy, the regional economy. We can't influence those things, but they influence us. So we have to be aware of those, and we have to take control over those things that we do have control over. We control what happens in town hall. And we've got to engage everybody and get them excited so we're doing the right things. We can't control what the state does to us or the feds do to us, but we can be prepared to react.
Right. Yeah, and it's crazy. I know one of the another thing that's coming up, and we're getting a lot of news on, is the tech school. The project, and something that I found very interesting, and I education is number one. I honestly believe that. I don't, however, agree with every way locally that we deal with that, and that's everybody's opinion is different, and I understand that. One thing that I said, and even Hailey said during campaign time was when they talked about building the new school. One thing they talked about was moving the school out to the Wyndhams, closing down schools, and a concern was walkers, local community schools, where parents, because parental involvement is big, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you always go to, and I'm always one of these people, I go to these conferences or, these shows put on by the kids, and you look at the kids, and the first thing you see is them looking out into the, in watching for their parents. And I said, that's really important. And we were told by some people on the Board of Ed a while back that, hey, we don't have that many walkers. And I said, well, we've got all these crossing guards. And now I'm looking at the tech school, and one of our major things, and I agree with it 100%, is walkers.
Yep.
We've got all these. We've got to keep this school in this town because a lot of these kids, a tech school, in my opinion, will save them. It will change the economy because it'll put them on a career path.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And we've made this case to the state. Now, the state feels strongly that they do not want to do anything that's going to cause a delay in the replacement of the current facility.
Right.
The facility up there is a mess right now.
Right.
It's been allowed to, it's worn down.
Sure.
We don't need to sort of
No.
figure out why, but it's worn down, and it needs to be replaced desperately. The best case scenario is that it's going to be a 5-year construction period. And that's if there are no impediments to construction whatsoever. The state maintains that putting it at the Mill 4 site, which has been proposed here, would take an additional 5 years, dragging the construction out from 5 to 10 years. They're very concerned about that additional time, and we're trying to figure out whether their math is right, whether their assumptions about how long it takes to build a bridge are correct. There's a bunch of reasons why that number is suspect in my mind.
Right.
But they're concerned about it, and we've told them that we're not going to be the cause of a 5-year delay. However, the importance of having some sort of trade program here in town is huge. Right. So we're working with the state. We're going to try to figure out whether they're right about this additional 5-year time frame. Essentially, their concern is that the current bridge at Pine Street is not adequate. Okay. So replacing that bridge, the permitting and the approvals that are necessary at the federal state level are going to drag out the construction period, and they can't even begin construction of the school until they've done that that review of the bridge.
Right. So I guess that's another one of those things that we just didn't think about. But again, I think it's something that could be worked out. Like you said, and I'm sure you're right on top of that. Been a lot of questions. We've got the universities, we've got the buildings, we've got a rail system that runs right through our town.
Yeah.
You know, how could that be used? I mean, could that be put to a positive?
Yeah, so there is a group that's been trying to get passenger rail back on this line, a group in Massachusetts, elsewhere in Connecticut. It would be really nice to see passenger rail back on this line for the community. Yeah, this used to be a place where people would get off, they'd have lunch, they'd get back on the next train, and they'd go up to Boston. That doesn't happen, hasn't really happened for quite some time. That kind of connectivity, though, is huge. It would be great for the community to have a rail connection to the rest of southern New England. The probability of that happening is not great.
Okay.
It would be nice. The advocates have been pushing for it for years and years and years. This segment of line, as I understand it, this rail line, is in better shape than the lines to the south. This was an issue down in Norwich and New London for years and years, and an assessment of that rail line was that the costs of upgrade would be just astronomical, cost prohibitive. Here, it's not as bad, but there's still a major investment, because remember, for decades now, the only thing running over these tracks has been heavy freight trains, and they tend to shift things around and degrade the infrastructure. There'd have to be investments made. It's expensive, and it's got to be borne by somebody. The feds right now are not putting a whole lot of money into these types of projects. So it's not something I see happening in the foreseeable future, in the next 5 to 10 years anyway.
Right. So other than that, I mean, we've had a lot of questions, and I guess we got slowdowns with our dog park. The shelter. I'm sorry. The pound. But there are plans.
Yeah. So I was out there a couple of weekends ago. We were cleaning out the old kennel area. Some Zamara and actually Eddie Rios was out there with us, just taking everything we could out of the facility because it had become something of a storage locker. So we were cleaning out that facility and getting the 2 animal control officers ready to move from that building into their new adoption center building. Nice little structure. It's a small building, but it's an attractive space where people can come out and meet prospective pet. It's a good space for people to come meet their next dog or their next cat. But the kennel itself, the area where we keep the animals, is in need of repair. It's an old cinder block structure. Yep. It has not been maintained as well as would be ideal. We've had an assessment done by a professional who's familiar with the OSHA codes and the animal control codes and all of the standards that the state has for these facilities. And that report should be back to us in the next week or two, and we should then know what our next step is. Right. But we now have a space where the humans who run the program are out of the space where the animals are, and we've got a space where the public can come and visit with prospective pets. That leaves us with the last piece of the puzzle, which is cleaning up the space where the animals are. It's better, way better now, because we've cleaned it. We've gotten the thing back in order. Took a power washer to the entire inside of the building. But there's still work to be done, and it has to do with the heating and the electricity and the systems. Right.
Which seems to be a big issue with all our town buildings, and it just seems like everything has been dumped right on your plate when you came in here, because I don't remember previous town managers and thinking about infrastructure and heating and all this stuff that's hitting you right now with all our buildings.
It's clearly true. It amazes people when I talk to them about this. I say, we don't have a facilities manager. We don't have a facilities manager. We don't have one person whose job it is to take care of town hall and the animal shelter and the rec center and the library. All of those facilities are sort of on their own. Right. And the managers who run the programs also run the buildings. That's not the best way to run facilities. Right. Facilities require a particular attention to maintenance and upkeep. If you're asking the program people to do that, you tend to get more program and less maintenance. Right. You need somebody who's in charge of your buildings. We're doing that now, and we're going to be proposing in the next year's budget that we bring on a facilities manager. I'm actually hoping to bring somebody up from within the organization to take that role on. But it's imperative that somebody's paying attention to the utilities and the repairs and the boilers and just making sure that nothing is falling apart or being neglected. That being said, we're coming up to our first break, but that would prevent us from situations that we're getting into now. Exactly.
Again, we're going to take a quick break here on WILI 1400 AM and 95.3 FM. Welcome back to Unfiltered with Mike Desaulniers on WILI 1400 AM, 95.3 FM. We've got our in-studio guest, Robert Zarnetske and Hailey Desaulniers. And our phone number, again, is 860-456-1400. That's 456-1400. Call us, ask questions. You can talk to the town manager, or you could talk to me or Hailey, whatever you want. All right, so we're getting back into where we were.
Yep. So one of the things that we were talking about during the break is it's all about systems. Part of the challenge, again, I call it the COVID hangover, but to be honest, it goes back beyond that. It's not just that we were coming out of a period of time when everybody was working from home. We've got to look at the way local governments have done their work for decades, really. And not every municipality has been sort of keyed into this idea that there should be performance metrics for everything, that we should have systems designed for maintenance. There's this sort of view of government that you take care of the challenges as they come. You hire good people, you give them the resources and the tools they need, and they can tackle problems as they arise. And that's a perfectly fine approach to local government, so long as the systems underlying them don't need adjustment, don't need change.
Right.
When you have folks who are just reacting to things, and the systems aren't really in place that allow them to react in a way that's going to benefit everybody or maximize the benefit to everybody, it doesn't work. So the solution to that kind of problem is to put structures in place. It's a plan. It's knowing that you have a business plan and executing on that plan, measuring how you're doing with regard to that business plan or your execution of that business plan. We were talking about the fact that we don't have a facilities manager. So if I ask the question right now, what is our cost of electricity for the town? There's no one person who can answer that question. I've got to go to 6 or 7 different department heads and ask, what's it cost in your building for electricity? What's it cost in your building? And we got to add all those things up. What's our oil bill? Same problem. What's our telephone bill? Same problem. Consolidating things and getting them under one facilities manager who says, my electric bills are these and this is the total. My home heating oil bill. My maintenance plan is X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to put this money aside this year for my maintenance plan for this building is, A, B, and C, and I'm going to. That's how you start building crises. You get ahead of the maintenance. You get ahead of the issues that are going to come. You're not surprised by them, so you don't need to have, the environment that just lets you behave improvisationally. You don't need it because you've got a plan and you're executing on that plan. Mm-hmm. The same is true for us with regard to fleet. I had a council member call me up the other day about the capital improvement plan, which has got the capital expenditure request, the things request. What do people want to buy? And he noticed that one department had a Ford F-250 for $90,000 in their proposal, and another department had a Ford 250 at, I think it was $57,000. And how can they have two radically different prices for the same vehicle or the same need satisfying tool? And the answer is there's no fleet manager. So It wasn't evaluated by one person looking for internal consistency. It was 2 different approaches to pricing something, and we'll have to work through that. But a year ago, we didn't even have that capital budget. So we couldn't even look at them and see the contradiction. We were operating without a plan. We've now got a plan, and we're in the process right now of ferreting out the inconsistencies and the questions. Beyond that, we put somebody in place and say, okay, we've got the resolution of the conflicts. We've got the resolution of the questions. We've figured out where the errors in the plan are. Execute and constantly revisit and look for more errors, and you're going to find them. I mean, that's the nature of work.
And it's amazing, and I couldn't agree more with the idea of the facilities manager, a fleet manager, that sort of thing, because if you look back historically at this town over the past 20 years, our biggest setbacks have come from lack of preparation for failure, with whether it be a building or a vehicle. And we do have. It's not like you're buying a car to bring you to and from a grocery store. We're talking about some pretty expensive vehicles because of what they do.
Right.
Specialty vehicles.
No, that's right. And I think it's important to recognize that this isn't an indictment of the people who work for the town. We've got good people, but you can be the best driver in the world.
Yep.
And if you don't remember to change the oil, you're still going to have trouble on the road. And we've got good drivers. We've got good people. But nobody's been assigned responsibility for facilities maintenance as their main focus. Right. So we run into those problems because it's another duty as assigned, and you can't expect people to be excellent at everything.
Right. And I even to go one step further, I've been pushing for a long time, and I don't know if this would even work out.
This one right now?
But
yeah, they can take phone calls. Do you want to be on the air?
When we're talking about vehicles and this and that, combining, I always wondered if you could combine the schools with the town, and that way part, the facility and the vehicle part, come out of that MBR.
Yes, and we've actually raised this topic with the superintendent. I'm very interested in seeing whether or not there's some way for us to combine forces and tackle facilities projects together. They have a strong facilities program at the schools. They need one. They've got one, and if there's spare capacity there, if they have the ability to help us, I'd be happy to have them come work with us down in Town Hall and the Rec Center and our other facilities.
Right, and that was a lot of I know there's been a lot of people that have said, when I said that the first time, it was, well, why would the town take over the school? No, it doesn't. I'm not saying it could be that the Board of Ed may have a stronger hold on facilities than the town does, or so it's finding out who is the best for the job.
So I'm gonna say it this way: they have got a stronger handle on their facilities than we do on ours. Now, again, we've got good people. DPW, Don Fascio is an absolutely amazing public works director. He does an extraordinary job. The guys who work for him are amazing. They do great work. We see it in the maintenance of the parks. We see it in the way that the snow was cleared from this storm. Anybody who's been driving out there, any other part of eastern Connecticut or anywhere in southern New England for that matter, you have not seen roads in better condition over the course of the last week than you have in Willimantic. That I'm willing to stake my reputation on. You just haven't seen it. The roads here were incredibly well maintained during the last storm or after the last storm. Great people, but they don't have a keen focus. It's not been their assignment. They've not been told, worry about the buildings first.
Right.
It's not their first responsibility. It's another duty as assigned.
Well, that goes into the idea, like, the same thing if you're at a pool. If everyone's watching the kids, no one's watching the kids.
Exactly.
If everyone's expected to keep up with it and just kind of watch out for it, everyone thinks someone else is doing it, the next person's going to do it, and it doesn't get done.
That's exactly right. And that is a common problem in small local governments. We think that, so long as you've got the talent, it will be caught. It's not the talent, it's not the intent, it's not the ability of the people on the job. Without the systems, you're just not checking, you're not scanning, you're not looking for the kids in the water.
Well, yeah, and I mean, with you've got your main job assignment, these people have things that they do every day. They have responsibilities and tasks that they're given. So all that stuff, it's deemed extra work, and that's the stuff you do if you have time. And you never have time. There's not really many moments in a workday you have extra time, so no one's doing it because they're doing their assigned tasks first. And if someone was assigned to do that, it would get done. If that was their daily assigned task, it would be getting done. We would be on top of it.
So among systems analysts, there's an old phrase that goes, that which gets measured gets done.
Yes.
Unless you're measuring it, unless you're counting it, unless you're trying to evaluate it, it doesn't get done. How many dollars did you bring in the day? You're paying attention to business at that point. How many, if you're an electrician, how many feet of wire did you string today? You're counting the things that matter, and the things that matter get counted. The things that matter get done.
Exactly. Throughout the workday, you go. You lay your wire down. Yep. You're an electrician. You do all your wire. You're not counting how many tools you put back in the truck. That's extra. You're cleaning up. You're finishing up.
Exactly.
You do what you have to do. The work you're assigned is accounted for, and you're not counting the extra stuff because that's not what you're getting paid to do.
Systems analyst. I love it.
You're not looking out for those extra things. If someone's assigned to put the tools away in the truck, you have all the tools at the end of the day.
That's right. And in some cases, that may be something you have to do. Mm-hmm. In some with very expensive pieces of equipment, you have somebody assigned to the equipment because you need to track it.
But no one's counting the wrenches.
That's correct.
No one's counting them.
That's correct.
And that might seem like a silly analogy, but like you said, we have so many different things in this town. We have universities, we have the schools, we have all our public works. We have so many different things. And, maybe someone's paying attention to the big things.
Right.
Someone's going and looking at roofs. And that's what they're doing. They're not looking at everything else in the building. They're looking at that one thing because that's what they're paid to look at.
I actually love the wrenches and the sockets analogy because there's a big difference between folks who do put the sockets back in the case before moving on to the next socket.
And then there's those
who don't.
My dad who just throws them back in the tool bag, and they're probably all there.
Well, I've spent some time trying to find sockets that somebody didn't put back.
It's always the 10 millimeter.
It can be tough.
Always the 10 millimeter.
All right, we are not going to have her back on this show. But no, it's right. Call this, and just to let people know that if you have calls, call in 860-456-1400. Do not call my cell phone because we cannot take you if you call my cell phone. So, yeah, it's the things that have been creeping up on us. I know the rooftop units, that situation, and obviously you're going to have mechanical failures.
Yeah.
But I honestly I think we could save millions with a facilities manager.
It's the the stitch in time saving 9 thing, right? If you do your maintenance on schedule, then you can extend the life of the equipment. If you don't do maintenance at all, the equipment doesn't even necessarily get to its expected life.
Right.
That makes a difference. That makes a big difference.
It does. I mean, you take it on your own, on a personal level, and everybody at home has done this. You buy your new car, you do this, and I'm guilty of it myself. We went on a vacation a couple weeks back, maybe, I don't know, it was a few weeks ago. Quite a long drive. And I said, before we go, I'm going to throw this on the car, and because we just bought the car in April, and brand new. And I looked at it, and I didn't realize it. My wife drives a lot. She put 48,000 miles on it since April.
Wow.
And I was like, holy cow. So I said, I'll take it in for, where's your oil change? When was the last time? And she thought I was doing oil changes. I thought she was doing oil changes. So we did a 48,000 mile oil change on it. And, but this is the problem is nobody.
Better late than never, I guess.
Yeah, nobody was looking at that that system. Nobody, like you say, nobody
exactly.
was, because I thought she was doing it. She thought I was doing it. Now, with the municipality, that's big. It's just
and it's also solvable. It's not fatal. Again, we have talented people. I mentioned that I think we can bring the facilities person up through the ranks. Mm-hmm. We have 5 janitors who work for the town.
Yep.
The schools have got, I think, 40 some odd facilities personnel. Their program is much stronger. And in many ways, very critical. I mean, you're dealing with safety issues in buildings related to children. So, let's not, get a false comparison going here. But we've got 5, maybe 6 people who work on this stuff on a fairly regular basis. Mm-hmm. And I think we've got 1 or 2 folks who can step up and take on the lead role and then take that team in the direction of, focusing on measuring things and doing the things that they've measured. If we can then sort of tap into some of the talent and get some assistance from the schools, we may have a way to start this program off strongly.
Right, and already assembled for you, a team pre-built. But you had mentioned the fleet.
Yep.
Would that fleet, if you had somebody or a vision of this, would that fleet person, they'd be able to shop out these vehicles, get the best deals on vehicles, and would that also include our emergency vehicles, which are really costly?
So the answer to the question is we don't really know until we talk to the fire chief about how he wants to manage his fire apparatus. Mm-hmm. But in theory, yes. In theory, you've got a fleet manager whose job it is to find the best deals, go out and solicit bids on vehicles, find the best deal you can find, bring the vehicles in, bring them on board, bring on the decaling and the lights, a light bar for the police cars and what have you. Just kit the vehicles out when they're in our control, put everything on a schedule, get the license plates, make sure that the insurance is up to date for everything. All of these things are done now. They're just done scattered around the organization. Right. So insurance, for example, is done out of my office. License plates are done out of my office. History gets us there. But a fleet manager would do everything from, putting out the bid to retiring and selling the used vehicles and everything in between.
So the only downside I see, and this is a New England thing, I think, is New Englanders, towns. If you look at everything that we do here in New England, it's like a control thing. It's like, everybody feels that they're losing a little bit of control because I've always done this. You know, why are you letting him do that? That's my job.
Right.
And you know, so if you, no matter what it is, whether it's school districts, we have 280, I believe 280 something school districts here in Connecticut, whereas California might have, what, 3?
Yeah.
Because in New England, we all want control over, you know, so consolidation of.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest challenge in this part of the country, is getting folks to understand that you're not giving up control. You're freeing up your capacity to focus on the things you really want to focus on.
Right.
Nobody really loves, honestly, dealing with fleet unless you're a car guy,
Yeah.
right? Then you love it. That's
Yeah.
So I want to find a car guy who loves it, and everybody else does, you know, can get away from it. The program people, I can almost guarantee you that the least enjoyable thing that Dan over at the library does, the director of the library, is deal with the building stuff. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to deal with the electricians and the plumbers and the guys coming in to
Right.
fix ceiling tiles. He does it because it has to be done. But there are people who do love it, who love buildings, who love, you know, the trades and construction, and getting a facilities person who can do that so Dan can be free to do other things.
Right.
That's good for us.
It really is. I mean, and you know, I can remember. I'm going back a few years when I went on the board of ed for the first time. You know, we split up, and in the beginning, and you know, the chair at the time had said, "Okay, you know, you're going to go on." Told me you're going to go on finance, and this. Whoa! Hit the brakes. I know about zero when it comes to finance at the time, and but you know, the facilities end. I said I'd like to get involved in that.
Yep.
You know, so then we all sat down as a board and we looked at, okay, what do we all do on the outside?
Exactly the way it should be. Exactly the way to do this.
You know, I think that was the first year of being when I was in town. Our education budget passed for the first go around. It just went through because at that point in time we had it was so transparent and so many people that were involved. Everybody had involvement.
Right.
So there was no, well, this group is doing this or that group's doing that, and you know, everything was put out on the table.
Right.
And I think that's the way to go.
I think you're right. This idea that you sort of do a survey of your staff, the folks engaged in the system, however that is, and ask them, what is it, in an ideal world, if there was no other impediments, what is it that you would like to spend your day on? How would you like to spend your time? Mm-hmm. If you can get an honest answer from people about that, then you can start building a program that capitalizes on everybody's strengths and their desires. And that's human nature. We all want to accomplish what we want to accomplish. So let's get that out on the table and let's figure out how to do that. It's like, you know, any good sports coach, a good basketball coach figures out who's strong on the left side, who's strong on the right side, and puts them in the right position. We need to be doing the same thing and not let folks feel uncomfortable about losing control, rather allowing them to understand that this is the way they can pursue their best abilities.
Right. It only stands to make them stronger as a department. And you know, one area that you have in the town that a department, I happen to know them personally, is you know, the registrar's office. Mm-hmm. You have 2 people in there that they have their own strengths. Mm-hmm. And they both do their own thing. You know, you have one that's more IT, one that's not, one that's you know. So you've got that. But even with that, I mean, you know, somebody coming in and doing budgeting and all that sort of thing, you know, really would help out. I mean, that department doesn't use any kind of vehicles or anything, obviously, or facilities. Right. They just use the town stuff. But you know, it's just they plan through and they use their own strengths. Where a lot of departments, you know, it's just whoever's there is just doing it. You know, and
yeah, I mean,
I mean, well, that's comparable to any business. Any good business runs it like that. So why wouldn't we run the town like that? Like a car dealership, the mechanic isn't inside selling cars. Where
Right.
I work, I'm a CNA. I'm not. I'm getting people up. I'm taking care of people. I'm not going through medical records. There's someone who does that because we do different things and it runs smoothly. Because everyone has their jobs. They do what they do. They do what they're good at. What they like to do.
That's right. Allow everybody to pursue their passions. Allow within reason. I mean, we can't have, I used to have a program where law enforcement officers in a community where I used to work could get credit for college courses. Mm-hmm. And my condition was always, this is has to be something that you can apply on the job. So if you're going to learn criminal procedure at a law school, I'll pay for that. I want my cops to know criminal procedure. But if you're doing, French cuisine, it's not going to benefit us. We're not paying for the French cuisine class.
Not comparable.
So you have to make sure that you bound this so it makes sense. It has to be mutually beneficial. But there's almost always room to find the passion, find the thing that people are interested in, and find a way to make that beneficial to the community.
Well, yes, of course. Like even what you were saying with the janitors or the fleet.
Yep.
Find, the person that's
Loves
good at
that.
that,
Right.
likes doing that, and they can handle the insurance and the license plates. And, that's what they do. They're still doing the job. They're
Yep.
still working in there, but they're focused on one thing that they like to do that's benefiting the whole department.
And it's not like anyone who's an adult should expect that every hour of every day, every minute of every day is going to be sunshine and rainbows and awesome and everything is. That's not the world. That's not how work works. However, we can minimize the amount of silly stuff or stuff that you don't enjoy doing if we can identify what your skills are and what your pursuits are, what your goals are.
Well, exactly. And I mean, even as far as desire in the workplace goes, you like things you're good at. Even if it's not your favorite activity,
That's right.
if you're good at it, you feel accomplished and satisfied after your workday. You might have had a boring half the day. It might have been a boring full day.
Yep.
But you did a good job.
Yep.
And, you can go home with that. You did a good job and you helped and, you did what you could.
People do best the things that they enjoy the most.
Yes.
It's what you put the energy into. It's what you put your mind frame into. People do things well when they enjoy them.
In the accomplishment mindset.
Yep.
If you're not accomplishing anything, you're not going to enjoy work.
One thing that you've implemented since you've been here, and I'll be honest with you, when you first came up was talking about it, I saw this is going to be horrible, and with the working sessions.
Yep.
And I was really, I didn't go vocal against it, but I was dead set against it. I said, this is going to be horrible. This is just a mess.
Yeah.
And I have to say that, getting the people in there and hearing from all sides, because you go in and it's not that you have blinders on, but you do. You go in and you've got one thought process and you've thought about this 8 times over, but you've always thought about it from your own perspective. And, hearing from other people, it's just been amazing. And you've got it so the council, employees, the public, everybody's in there voicing an opinion.
I really have enjoyed the work sessions. We've got another one coming up tomorrow night, in fact, at the fire school out on Fire School Road. So
Right.
folks, come on out and join. The conversation tomorrow night is about 2 things. It's about the council's goals and objectives and the dispatch center. So we've got just an amazing opportunity to have a casual conversation rather than sort of speaking to the public or hearing from the public. Mm-hmm. I love this dynamic. I love being able to get people just talking to one another.
Right.
And it works. It works here.
It's
Oh, yes. Hailey's point, correct. It's at 7 o'clock tomorrow night at the fire school.
all right. I didn't even think of that. You could have just said it right in the microphone.
Oh, I didn't want to steal a spotlight. He had a thing going there. I didn't want to steal it from him.
Well, thanks.
So yeah, it's and I'm glad you said that because I thought it was the library.
Yep. We've got construction going on in the library, and we don't have a facility manager, so the project's a little delayed.
Okay, so there you go, and that but I think it will be a great working session because that dispatch center that's a hot ticket item. I mean
It's a big deal. There's a lot of money involved in the project. It's $1 million+ a year in last year's budget, and looking to be a little bit higher than that this year. And there's money that the state makes available that we currently are not tapping into. So there's a lot going on there.
Right. So yeah, it's because we're not getting the benefit of the regional.
That's right. So we've estimated that if we were part of a regional dispatch center, we would receive, or the collective regional group would receive, an additional $250,000 to as much as $400,000 more. It's a lot of money.
That's big. So if you can get out to that working meeting, you have any ideas or you want to put something in, get out there 7 o'clock tomorrow. And it's been a great show here on WILI 1400 AM, 95.3 FM. Join us again next week, and we hope to get your calls. And we're glad that you tuned in, and have a great week.